Kristen here and welcome back to my channel. So I'm just gonna do a little video on my visit to the ER. Sorry this video got out a little late, but due to kind of some issues with filming and editing, it just took longer than I thought. And me being sick as well, like having an actual cold after being in the ER. But anyway, I'm going to be explaining to y'all why I was gone for a week and what kind of has been going on. This is in no way to get like sympathy from you guys. This is just me kind of explaining what's going on in the hopes that it would maybe bring some encouragement for you that maybe are struggling right now or struggling with maybe a similar issue. So it all started last week Wednesday morning. So I woke up, had kind of some stomach cramping, didn't think a ton of it, went into work, and after I got to work, the pain just intensified. I was like sweating, running a fever. So I went home, at which point the pain just continued to get worse. I had like a ton of nausea, and then I was vomiting. I vomited 3 times, at which point I was like, I don't know what's going on. I was kind of panicking. So I ended up calling the clinic. I told them my symptoms, which was vomiting, nausea, lightheadedness, shakiness, chills, fever, and then the severe lower abdominal pain. And they were like, well, we think it might be your appendix. You need to come in now. So I came in. I had to do like a urine test and like blood workup, blood pressure, checking all the things, right? And they were like, okay, your white blood cell count is really high, which indicates signs of infection, which would make sense if you have appendicitis. So they're like, you may need to have surgery like within the next few hours. So at which point I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, like this all happened very, very, very quickly. Then they had me go to the ER because the clinic is separate from the ER, and I had to do a CT. So they have to do a CT scan in order to basically prove that it's appendicitis or it's your appendix before they do surgery. And they did a CT, at which point everything came back negative on the CT. So I didn't have appendicitis. So basically they were trying to rule out everything that it wasn't. But I still had the high white blood cell count. So they kept me overnight for observation, gave me antibiotics and IV fluid, and I had to stay overnight. And then at which point I met with the surgeon or doctor in the morning, and he told me, based on all of my results and everything, that I likely have IBS, known as irritable bowel syndrome, or their name for it is spastic colon. So, and I'll just kind of give you a quick definition here of what that is. Irritable bowel basically is described as anyone who like struggles a lot with like stomach pain with regards to like bowel movements. So it could be infrequent, it could be diarrhea, it could be constipation. Your digestive tract, if you have IBS, reacts abnormally to certain substances, certain foods, or to stress. So this leads to symptoms like cramping, gas, bloating, pain, constipation, diarrhea, lightheadedness, fainting in extreme cases, vomiting, etc. IBS is sometimes called spastic colon. This is pretty common. I think it's about like 15% of people struggle with this, and it's more common in women. But it's a group of symptoms that often happen all together. Basically, when your food passes through your digestive tract, like the colon, right? That's called motility. And when you have IBS, this motility is disrupted. So things aren't moving normally through your digestive system and through your colon. So motility could speed up, in which case you would have like diarrhea, or it could slow down. Now for me, I have type IBS-C, which is constipation. That's what the C stands for. So everything in my digestive system moves very, very slowly, which causes constipation. What this means is it's going to be a lifelong thing for me, which I'm going to have to change some things like my diet. They do recommend that I try FODMAP diet, and I have to like cut out dairy and I have to cut out gluten, not long term, but just to see, and then start gradually adding foods back in to see how my body reacts to it, because IBS is different for everybody. Everybody's gut bacteria is different. So it's kind of like a waiting game and a trial and error thing, which is kind of frustrating. Basically what FODMAP stands for is fermentable. So this is like fermentable food components when eaten in large portions can cause like gas, bloating, stomach pain, etc. That's the F. Then the O is the oligosaccharides, which basically is fructan sources, things found in like, that's why they recommend you go gluten-free, things found in wheat, rye, garlic, onion, leeks, or artichokes. Also things like beans, lentils, cashews, nuts, things like that as well could be included here. And then disaccharides, that's lactose, which is why I have to go dairy-free for a while. And then the monosaccharides, that's the M. Those are like fructose sources, so that's like certain fruits, honey or high fructose corn syrup, so certain fruits are higher. So like an example would be like apples or watermelon are gonna rate higher, so I'd have to essentially cut those out and then add them back in and see how I feel. And the last one is polyols, so that could be like certain ingredients like sorbitol, mannitol, erythritol, xylitol, imalts, apricots, avocados, cherries, nectarines, peaches, plums, and mushrooms. Low kind of FODMAP diet, which includes kind of those lower sources of fiber, since fiber can be harder for you to digest, helps your digestive system work better when you have IBS, and then you can slowly add things back in to see how your body reacts and if you can eat it, or kind of how much you can eat and what your tolerance is for it. So that's kind of what I've been trying. It has been really challenging and difficult. But I've been eating a lot of like brown rice, chicken, a lot of like berries, like these blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, things like that, to try to aid in my digestion. But again, this isn't a long-term restrictive thing. This is meant to just kind of see and improve my digestion and then add things back in slowly. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about my history. So I've been essentially struggling with what they're calling IBS. They don't really know for sure. There's no test for it. They basically did all the tests to rule everything else out, like gallstones, kidney stones, appendicitis. Like they basically did all the tests to rule out everything else, and then are like, okay, well, it's nothing else, so it's IBS. And at that point, it was a little bit disheartening to hear, because I knew that I'd have to make like lifestyle changes. And there's just been like a lot of things. I had to meet with a nutritionist to figure out kind of the FODMAP thing and experiment with my diet. I've honestly always struggled with like some level of constipation, even from when I was like a baby. But the past 6 years since I've been going to college, or since I was in school, I've struggled with stomach pain. Like it's random. Sometimes it's several times a week, several times a month. Sometimes I'll go months without pain. And I would get like severe pain, like pain so bad that I would literally faint and wake up on the floor. Like it was very bad. I have had one ER trip in the past. It was not a good experience, and basically they thought I was faking it. And that's kind of the hard thing is with IBS, a lot of it is like symptoms that aren't noticed. Like it's unseen kind of struggle. I don't in any way want to compare it to like autoimmune type illnesses, but in a way, because it's sort of these unseen symptoms that aren't noticeable, it's kind of like that. That's the best way I can describe it. And I never really know when my symptoms are going to hit. So, you know, anything from fatigue all the time, gassiness, bloating, extreme constipation, really bad pain, sitting on the toilet for hours at a time. This may be TMI, but my stools are very, very hard and small, which also indicates the constipation. Yes, it's a little different in terms of the foods and in terms of your type. Like some people struggle with just diarrhea, some people struggle with constipation and diarrhea, some people struggle with just constipation. It's really different for everybody. This has been kind of a long-standing thing, but nobody, like no doctors really could figure out what was going on. I had met with like a GI specialist about 3 years ago, had a full colonoscopy done, like all the things, and I was young. I was, I think, 24 at that point when I had that done. And basically he was like, there's nothing wrong, like you're not gluten intolerant. He like prescribed me a medication, I think it was like Linzess, at which case I ended up like puking up black chunks, and it did not work for me. He didn't even seem to care, honestly. I feel like he kind of thought that I was like joking or like not being like honest, like the fact that I was like actually fainting and passing out, because like the pain would get so severe and I wasn't like pooping for like 10 days at a time. Like he was like, yeah, that's not true. And I think that was the hardest part for me, is like I was in this extreme pain. It was impacting my job, impacting my relationships. Like I couldn't even really eat out without like being in extreme pain. pretty much immediately afterwards, like most of the time. It was impacting a lot of areas, and like the doctors just didn't know or didn't care. I will say with my most recent experience, the doctors at least seemed to care and gave me a lot of information, you know, followed up with me meeting with a nutritionist. And I don't know, I may have to find another GI specialist and have additional testing done, but I don't really know for sure what that's going to look like. In terms of like other things that you can do, they recommend I up my water intake, which I already drink over like 100 ounces of water a day. I exercise daily. I manage stress. I do like yoga and deep breathing and things like that. So I do pretty well in terms of that, because stress can also be a big factor that impacts people in certain ways, or can make things more difficult and make your stomach not like pass bowel movements. So really checking in with myself, taking breaks, things like that is very important. But I feel like now at least I have some answers in terms of like a diagnosis and in terms of like managing my symptoms. So hopefully, crossing my fingers, that like upping my fiber intake a little bit, in like the healthy, easier, breakdownable foods for fiber, like brown rice, like dairy-free yogurt, like certain nuts I can't have, like almonds or cashews, kind of rate a little bit higher in terms of the ingredients and higher on that FODMAP scale. So those are things I should be avoiding eating a lot of, and sticking more with like pecans or walnuts or just regular unsalted nuts. So that's kind of my experience and where I've been at. And I want to send some love and encouragement to y'all if you are struggling with a similar issue, whether it's a GI issue or just chronic undiagnosed pain or pain in general. I'm sorry, it sucks. I definitely know what it's like and how it interferes with relationships, with your work, with daily life and living. And I just want to send love your way and pray for you, and hope that you will find some answers, or that there will be maybe some ways to better manage that pain. Doing this to get sympathy from anybody. This is just me kind of explaining my symptoms, and I hope that this could be a form of encouragement or hope for other people. I know for myself, I guess this has kind of been a learning and growing experience of like leaning on God and really trusting God. So I think that part of it has strengthened my faith. I actually will pop 2 verses on the screen of kind of some verses that stood out to me that have just been a source of encouragement for me, that'll be a form of encouragement and strength and hope for y'all. So otherwise, that's kind of where I've been. I'll keep you guys updated in terms of my diet and my symptoms. I am planning on doing like some more like grocery hauls and things like that. I know I did do a past video of me like shopping at Aldi, so that may look a little bit differently in terms of groceries that I'm buying and things that I'm purchasing. So, you know, stay tuned for that. Love y'all. Thanks so much for the support and the encouragement. So thank you so much, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your week.